when I started to think about my thesis, at the time, I was already kind of advising this company I collaborated with for 4 years regarding youth audiences and esports and how that can be a business for a media company. And put a lot of work into that, then threw it away because I thought that something much more interesting and broader in terms of impact and appeal was happening, which was how digital creators were even more on the rise at the time and crossing over to traditional media. So I studied that, came to some pretty interesting conclusions. And what I bring today is what have I been doing after I finished my MBA thesis, keep on researching for work purposes, and maybe, huge maybe, bring that also to academic fruition. I worked a long time in advertising, and one of the great surprises when I got to the Berlin School, the first chat I had with Michael Conrad was about Howard Gossage and how we were huge fans of Howard's work and his view on advertising. And this is a phrase that has been with me for all my career, that nobody reads advertising. People read things that they are interested in. Sometimes that will be an ad. And I think that today that also applies to what's going on in media, because nobody watches TV. People watch the things they like. Eventually, it will end up on TV, or eventually TV programmers will figure out something that is actually interesting for audiences that are not watching TV every single day. One of the big biases that I've always tried to fight was that young audiences do not watch TV. Although it's kind of true, the thing is that, well, they have streaming services. They have Netflix, Disney Plus. I don't know how many services you can have right now. You can have the price of renting a house in streaming services with all the content that you don't need and probably will not watch, but you have it on demand. Obviously, you have YouTube, which is just outrageous, the amount of content that is there in terms of entertainment, education, anything that you can think about is actually there. And the third thing is that short form video is so convenient, and it's something that you do on the go because of 5G and smartphones and all that. Content creators have looked at these platforms such as TikTok and saying, okay, this is a huge opportunity. It's not just about music and dances. It hasn't been for a long time. There's a huge TikTok content creator that does Excel content, teaches people how to use Excel, sells digital products, training. So there is so much and so convenient that I understand that young audiences will not watch television. The thing is that there is nothing on TV for these audiences. That's why they do not watch. It's not because they don't like the device, the TV device. But I think there are still very big opportunities in television for young audiences. And young, when I say it's not just people young in age, I think it's a bit more broad. People that are interested in things that are not on traditional television. I think that social watching is on the rise. I think that now that we're, I don't know, it's 2024, 2 years out of the pandemic, things are getting back to normal, I think. But people are spending more time together, doing more stuff together socially. So I think that social watching, if you have the right kind of content, can be a huge opportunity. In this age of AI, and I will try not to get into AI and politics during this chat because those are huge rabbit holes right now. I think that television has a huge opportunity to establish itself as the trustworthy source. It's not something I saw on Facebook, although there are a lot of fantastic creators on Facebook. TV still sounds official. I've been working with a lot of creators and doing TV shows with them. And the studios kind of look the same, but when they know it's for TV, their attitude is different. TV is still for real and official. And I think at this age of that everything is possible with AI tools, media professionals that are trained in journalism have an opportunity to establish TV as the most trustworthy source of information. And leading into what has been happening in sports media, which is what I studied for my thesis and keep on studying, and it became a lot more interesting in the past 6 months, is leveraging the existing behaviors. And this is something that is not new. I remember a case that for, I think, 2014, 13 maybe, that was this huge viral video on the internet of a girl doing a handstand twerking that fell over, caught fire. That took off on the internet. And then it was revealed that it was the video that Jimmy Kimmel from the Jimmy Kimmel Show had put on YouTube. And then it revealed on the show that comes in with the fire extinguisher. And that brought a lot of people and a lot of attention to television. So leveraging what people are using to try to get people back to TV, but then you have to deliver on the goods, is still a very largely untapped opportunity. So for the thesis, and the landscape was very different at the time. Considering that I finished in June or July last year, it was really different. So at the time, I studied 4 creators. The first was James O'Brien. James O'Brien is a fan. He's from New Jersey, loves baseball, has a channel called John Boy. His channel really took off when, trying to not to get too deep into sports here, there was a huge scandal that this baseball team was cheating with and stealing signs and using cameras and trash cans to make noise for players to figure out what's going on. And James O'Brien was really known for doing good lip readings. And he did an analysis of a game where that team was cheating that just put him on the map. His content took off and he became a huge figure in American sports media. Then the other one was Colin Cowherd. He's a very familiar face to people that follow sports radio and sports TV in the US. A guy that had been at ESPN at the time and right now is still on Fox Sports, although I think they now belong to the same company. Colin is a classically trained radio and TV host that went into digital doing his own content with his own company outside of Fox Sports. The third is JJ Redick, which was a journeyman sharpshooter in the NBA for a very long time, very well-respected player, had a very illustrious college career at Duke University, and became, I believe, the first, well, opinions diverge on this, but he claims to be the first active NBA player that started doing a podcast. And he did that before he retired. After he retired, started doing more content on a company he established and started working for ESPN. And finally, Pat McAfee, which was a kicker for the Indianapolis Colts in the National Football League, that retired early and started streaming on YouTube a live daily show for 3 hours with his friends. Something, in terms of production structure, I say, closer to television. To get out of what happened with the case, because I think what is happening now is so much more interesting and can give us so much more insight of where the opportunities are for brands, for media, for individual creators. All these people have in common huge levels of knowledge of the game they cover, being it football, baseball, or basketball. They understand what matters to the fans and have very unique perspectives. Colin Cowherd has been in media for 30 plus years. James O'Brien is the relatable guy that is from New Jersey, loves baseball, and hangs out with his friends. McAfee is with all due respect, a goofball that played football, was known for his antics at games, but still with a deep knowledge of the game. And then JJ Redick, which was, in his own words, a psycho that knew nothing but basketball. They're all very relatable because they are relaxed when they're doing the content. They talk like we do. They'll use the language we do, and sometimes, more often than not, very colorful language. They're all very passionate and they all go off script, especially those have been professional athletes, will put in stories that you will not hear anywhere else. The third thing is they are very prepared. All the content is very structured. They research what they're going to talk about, and the studio is above good enough. Things look good on digital platforms. So right now, I'm going to go into what changed. And one person, I think, well, the situation changed, but one person single-handedly changed the whole scenario. What I'm researching right now to learn more to apply to what I'm doing in terms of business and possibly doing some more academic research, I'm looking at what is happening at ESPN in the United States. because they have a strategy of bringing on people from digital platforms and allowing their talent to go on to digital platforms. So in January, they have a 3-show lineup in the morning. So Get Up with Mike Greenberg in January 2024 had the most viewed month ever with 500,000 people per show. Get Up leads into First Take that had in January the most watched month ever with an average of 680,000 viewers, which leads into Pat McAfee that had the best month ever with above 500,000 daily views. And when you count in what is going on cable and ESPN and on YouTube, the numbers are just absolutely ridiculous. Now, their main competitor, Fox Sports 1, is in a bit of trouble. Couldn't find exact figures like I found for ESPN because they were celebrating, so they divulged what was going on. But a very reputable Twitter account put out that the Tuesday edition, which was a month ago, of Undisputed, which is the show that goes up against First Take and has a lot of nuance in terms of history with the show at ESPN, had a show with 50,000 viewers. And numbers have been going down. And they have somebody at the helm of the show that is also a very well-known and kind of controversial, like at ESPN with Stephen A. Smith, main host called Skip Bayless, with a roster of former players such as Michael Irving from the Dallas Cowboys, that was a 3-time champion, Hall of Famer, Richard Sherman, Keyshawn Johnson, and all these big names, just like ESPN does. The thing is, I'm trying to study this scientifically with method that I learned at the Berlin School to prove that the fact that these people don't have huge online followings is not helping Fox Sports 1. And narratives in terms of how you treat people actually matter. And I'll get into that into more detail as I show you in terms of people that I'm actually researching besides the full situation of ESPN and Fox Sports 1. I'm keeping Pat McAfee and JJ Redick. JJ Redick was already with ESPN. Pat McAfee came on board after I finished my thesis, which was a huge deal because he was just a guy from YouTube, was doing some collaboration with ESPN with the college football. He knows everybody. Everybody goes on this show, but ESPN banned all their talent from going on to his show. It was a long story, but ended up with Pat McAfee on at ESPN. I've added on Stephen A. Smith, which is the face of First Take, their main show. He is also, like Colin Coward, a classically trained journalist and TV host that has now moved on to digital with his own platform. And Shannon Sharp, former NFL player, 3-time champion, Hall of Famer, and was at Fox Sports 1 at the other show that is now tanking. The interesting thing that has happened since I finished my thesis is that JJ Redick already had his digital presences with YouTube through his production company that he started in 2020 with a production partner that is a TV producer, Tom Lee Alter, has been at ESPN, has evolved now into calling games. He's a huge figure on the channel, and he keeps on building his own business. And I actually updated this because the change was so big today. I changed this slide like 4 times because 1 week ago, he launched a new product called Mind the Game Pod with LeBron James, which is the biggest figure still in basketball and a global icon. So a YouTube channel that was launched 1 week ago, an hour ago, had more than 374,000 followers, mind you, in 1 week. The first episode that has 1 week of airtime on YouTube has 3 million views. All the content that came from that has 5 million views. And the second episode, which launched today, had in excess of 270,000 views in the first 5 hours. This was from 1 hour ago. And both episodes were filmed in the same day. So they are reaching in, as you can see per the images, in a warehouse. They're filming with equipment that you can buy at Best Buy or any electronics store. It's just 2 guys talking basketball, which has a very low production cost when compared to doing traditional television. And they're doing very well in terms of numbers. So Stephen A. Smith is also an interesting case. He never He's a huge figure in American sports media. Started first take with Skip Bayless, that is now at Fox Sports 1 doing Undisputed. He never looked at digital until maybe a year ago. And he said, I'm going to do my own thing. So he has his own show on YouTube, which covers obviously sports and the state of sports media, which is now a huge deal talking about for people that care about that. He gives his views and opinions regarding current events from politics, whatever is relevant at the time, and has his own studio, will be in a suit as he is on TV, in a hoodie, like he apparently likes to be, or just with a backdrop when he's on the road working. Now, the most interesting thing about this, after Pat McAfee signed with ESPN, he got ESPN to promote his content on YouTube that he owns. This is unprecedented. So the lower third on television that is going to hundreds of thousands of people will say, this gentleman has something of his own that you might want to see, and it's on YouTube. This had never been done before. As I wrap up the 4 cases I'm studying right now in terms of creators, this is very relevant. Him getting the station to promote his content. He has so much power inside ESPN that he was able to fire his co-host from this show, reformat the whole show, and bring in the team that he wanted. And it's getting to very interesting results. And one of the people that he brought in was the co-host of Undisputed from Fox Sports 1 that used to work with Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharpe, huge figure in the American sports TV and culture right now. Former NFL player, very respected, had a tough time getting on TV as he had a lisp, and people didn't identify with him as a media personality from the get-go. But he built his brand, did very well on Fox Sports 1, but he felt disrespected, and they parted ways. And Stephen A. Smith brought him into ESPN. The interesting thing is he used to be a full-time TV host, and now ESPN is just a gig for him. He was very publicly recruited, came on board, does Mondays and Tuesdays, but has his own products. He has Club Shay Shay, which has in excess of 3 million subscribers, and Nightcap with 2 other athletes that has more than 1 million subscribers. So he interviews people on his own project, and the image of this is a video that took off in January that had in excess of 64 million views on the main video, not regarding all the content that came through that, with very known comedian called Cat Williams. This was a huge thing. SNL did a sketch on it. It was out of control. And Nightcap, every night with 2 other athletes, he goes online and comments on sports just like he does on TV. The difference is that he owns these platforms and promotes his products, such as an alcoholic beverage that he produces. The first person on the list, but last in this explanation, is the most intriguing case, which is Pat McAfee. Everybody thought he was going to change his style because he was going on to ESPN. He was sponsored by Sports Duel, a betting company. Let drop a huge deal, tens of millions of dollars, to go on to ESPN for maybe a little bit less money. But everybody said, well, you're going to be different because you're on TV. Can't swear. You're going to have to change your clothes, maybe change your team. And nothing of this happened. He still streams his show for three hours per day. Only one is live on ESPN, and he kind of behaves when he's live on ESPN. The huge advantage here for McAfee is everybody goes on his show. Literally everybody. Actors, comedians, professional athletes, TV hosts, everybody goes on his show. And everybody aligns with the vibe of the show. And audiences just love to see people that they see on TV, in movies, just go bananas and talk straight like they talk and swear. And it is very interesting to see that. For instance, Mike Greenberg, that does ESPN in the morning, he'll do his show. And 5 minutes later, he's on Pat McAfee's show and bombs everywhere when he does not do that at ESPN. Interestingly, he brought Aaron Rodgers onto his show to do a weekly segment. He's one of the legendary quarterbacks in the NFL. Nobody gets a lot of time to talk to him. So he goes on the show. He's been doing that for 5 years. And he said something that insinuated that Jimmy Kimmel, late night TV host in the US, could be on the Jeffrey Epstein list. And there was very rightfully so, a lot of outrage. And that was a big deal. And Pat McAfee had to come on the show and apologize. And Aaron Rodgers said it's not coming back for the season. Even better, there was this narrative that the show was not working on ESPN. And he called out by name on a live stream a longtime executive saying, this is the person that is putting this narrative in the market because he doesn't want us here. This is a person that allegedly is attached to a lot of firings and people that left ESPN not in the best of terms. This man is a huge figure at ESPN. Nobody has ever called out anybody of this stature by name on television. So we have the whole Aaron Rodgers thing with Jimmy Kimmel, the whole thing with this individual, Norby Williamson, and no consequences to this day. And this to me is the most intriguing thing. 10% of this would have got him fired a year ago. Not a word, not a slap on the wrist. He changed nothing because he commands a lot of power. Because the audience will follow him. And ESPN needs the audience. Mind you, these are two very isolated cases. He's not like doing this every single day. But while Stephen A. Smith can broker a deal saying, listen, I want to do my thing and you guys are going to help me. Eventually one day I want to leave or I want to go to a broader audience. JJ Redick brings in a lot of numbers because of YouTube, but everybody behaves. And this Pat McAfee individual has proven that all these creators have much more power than ever before. And I believe that this is the power structure right now at ESPN for time being until contracts are not renegotiated. The second thing I'm looking into is can other verticals follow? Because the study has been very sports centric. I believe that just like ESPN is a cable channel, Sci-Fi has that opportunity because the numbers that all the YouTubers that do quality content day in and day out have better numbers than the TV channel. It is very interesting to see that this started a lot with Game of Thrones on HBO. People would see the episode for an hour and then spend 2 hours listening to these creators talking about what went on the episode. This is a huge opportunity for a channel as Sci-Fi. Even bigger opportunity, I think, is the one that Comedy Central has right now. I believe they're still in company in the same group as NBC. Their numbers have been declining, but comedy is on the rise. Right now, the amount of podcasts on YouTube with the top voices in comedy is just ridiculous. The numbers they do are absolutely insane. The first gentleman, Tom Segura, has his own production company, does a podcast with his friend Bert Kreischer, does another podcast with his wife called Your Mom's House, does another podcast. Well, I'm going to make this short. He produces 6 or 7 podcasts with different people at his company and is now releasing TV-like content on YouTube. Bill Burr, which is one of the biggest voices in comedy and now director and actor, is huge on YouTube. Joe Rogan got his Spotify money, opened a comedy club in Austin, Texas, which is not the comedy town in the US, or wasn't before the comedy mothership opened. And all comics are moving to Austin. And bottom line, a lot of people, maybe you've seen some of them, stand-up comedians that are doing podcasts. And this has gotten so huge that the last reference is a channel called Joke World that has more than 500 or is approaching 500,000 subscribers. This is a fan that started doing a kind of like news show regarding what is happening in comedy this week. And Comedy Central, I don't think they're looking at this, but they're missing a huge opportunity. So to kind of wrap this up, so one of the opportunities for TV as I see them right now, and this is something that I'm really looking into because I still work kind of like in TV. Maybe you can discuss that a little bit later. This is an opportunity to maintain relevance. And for ESPN, this has worked very, very well. The audiences are super fragmented right now. But television can be the premium experience of the ecosystem because of a social watching, because it's live in the first place that you can see it, can have exclusive content, doesn't have the audience interaction that you have on digital, but still can be a driving force. I think this situation is a great opportunity for them to attract new talent, because all these individuals been talking about have the connections, have the money to set up studios, but it is high risk and in some investment for newcomers, and TV can kickstart these people's careers because they have shown, and Stephen A. Smith has led that way of, I'm a TV host, I have my own thing on YouTube, and you're going to promote it. This can be a way for TV to keep fresh talent on their screens. Obviously, to diversify revenue through the merchandise sales, which have to be a bit more interesting, that they have been doing at the experience stores, as in New York. Live events have been huge for all these creators, especially in comedy. Those podcasts have been going on the road on tour, selling out very large venues. Social media has money to be done, exclusive content. These are only just a bunch of revenue streams that TV can tap into if they go down this path. And obviously, making it safe to keep advertisers close, because advertisers want eyeballs. They want an audience. And TV cannot just sell the TV experience anymore. I think they have a huge opportunity to sell a cross-media plan to advertisers and retain that privileged relationship. Obviously, there are some threats also. Doing quality content is cheaper than ever. It is absolutely insane visual and auditory quality we can get to with stuff you buy at a regular store with consumer cameras and microphones. It is just ridiculous. One of the shows I produced, I showed it to the news director at the station I used to work for. I showed him an excerpt of the show, and I wanted him to come on as a guest. And he said, okay, looks nice. When he got to the studio, he's like, is this the same show? I'm like, yeah. It looked at DSLRs and smaller lights and a very small crew. And he's like, okay, how much did this cost? Like, okay, we set up the studio from paint to lights with 15,000 euro. And his response was, that is not enough to buy the pedestal of one camera for a news studio. So it is very different from what it was a few years ago. One of the threat is producing at the speed of the platform formerly known as Twitter, and smaller teams with very high motivation can put out content much, much faster than television. And not just putting out that content, but acting upon it and the audiences, which is absolutely mandatory nowadays. One of the big threats is that the numbers are very public right now. And when something takes off, everybody knows it took off. That is the main threat of digital. Numbers are public and advertisers can see them too. And I'd say the last thing, and this is hard to pull off, TV has to have what we used to be called appointment TV, must-see content. And this is tricky because you don't know what works and what doesn't work. But audiences will tune in if the content is killer. But this is not easy to achieve. Right now, and wrapping up for the title is, content, yes, content is king. What changed right now, and creators are leveraging, and the incumbent companies in media have to be smart about, is the audiences are now giving out the crowns and not the executives at the companies. When it works online, there is no way around it. Thank you so much for tuning in for this live session. And thank you to the Berlin School in Akin for the very kind invitation. And if you have any questions, more than happy to answer them as to the best of my capacities.